Two college graduates from the Netherlands, young, vibrant girls, take a trip to Panama in Central America. They go on a hike and they disappear. It's a mystery with so many twists and intrigue that I became obsessed. Hi, I'm Denise with Fascinating Cases. Today we'll be talking about the disappearance and the deaths of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, two Dutch girls with a promising future. It's probably the most complicated case I've ever been fascinated with. Was it foul play? Was it an accident? I recently read this book, Still Lost in Panama, and I will say it adds a lot to this case. The authors are Christian Hardinghouse and Annette Nenner. I've also listened to podcasts Lost in Panama. There are a lot of conflicting reports about this case, so let's unravel it if we can. In 2014, two Dutch girls save up their money and plan an adventure. Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon met while working at the same restaurant, and then they became roommates. Lisanne was shy and smart, and Kris was cheerful and bold. The girls decided to go to Panama for a few weeks. They were going to see the sights, learn some Spanish, and volunteer at a local school. The girls partied a little, they went to the beach, they swam, and they toured the beauty of Panama. On March 31st, they arrived in the city of Boquete. They would be staying with a host family, a woman named Miriam. They would have their own room with a separate entrance and a key. But there was a mix-up at the school where the girls planned to volunteer. The school said they weren't ready for them and come back next week. The girls were surprised and disappointed. This was supposedly planned ahead of time, and now the girls had a week to kill. Lisanne was also not feeling all that well, so much so she even visited a local pharmacy. We have no idea what she bought or if she bought something, but the girls carried on. They planned a visit to a coffee farm, a strawberry farm, and a local volcano. On April 1st, the girls decided to hike the El Pianista Trail. The hike leads up to the Continental Divide, a spot to see Panama's mountain range with a view of the Pacific and the Caribbean Sea. A trip to the summit and back would be about 5 miles. It was full of cloud forests and dense jungle. It was a hot day, and the girls dressed lightly, and a backpack they carried had some water in it, money, and a digital camera. The hike is rugged and slippery. It's doable, but mostly for someone who's in pretty good shape. The trail was marked. A taxi took them to the base of the trail in the morning, in the late morning hours. Supposedly, they were warned by locals to use a guide, but the girls went on their own. There are conflicting reports about whether a local dog tagged along, and it really just doesn't matter. One thing is certain, the girls did not return. On April 2nd, a local tour guide named Feliciano was wondering where the girls were. They had arranged a tour with him that morning, and when they didn't show up, he was concerned. He contacted the school, and he contacted Miriam, who he knew, and she said there was a spare key, and go ahead and enter the girls' room. And he did, and he looked around for about 30 minutes. What was he looking for? Maybe just clues to where the girls were. They hadn't told anyone of their plans. Someone from the school said the girls were interested in the El Pianista, and it was a trail that Feliciano knew very well. So he said he'd hike it and look for the girls. He found nothing, and the police were finally notified. The story of the missing Dutch girls was big news in Boquete. Mountain specialists are alerted, and they helped in the search. On April 4th, with no sign of the girls, their families arrived in Panama to help search. Helicopters and sniffer dogs are used, but the jungle was dense and nothing turned up. The local school, which turned the girls away initially, offered a reward of $2,500 for information on the girls' recovery. The story makes national news, and even the president of Panama makes a statement saying Panama is doing everything to find the girls. I'm sure the country was a little worried about public relations and their tourism. Witnesses come forward saying a red pickup truck was spotted at the base of the trail, a spot that's unusual for vehicles to be in, and men were loading up plant material. Others say they saw the girls return from the hike. An American who lived near the base said he talked to the girls, and they were asking where to catch a cab. Some say they spotted the girls in town. These leads are checked out for the most part, but they're not confirmed. And more importantly, the girls are nowhere to be found. By April 13th, the search is called off, but monitoring will continue. Kris and Lisanne's families upped the reward money to $30,000. The families initially suspect foul play. Then, around June 14th, there is a major break in the case. A local woman finds a backpack by the Calabria River. It's wedged between some rocks and soaked. It's turned over to the Bicchetti authorities. It belonged to the girls, the one they carried during the hike. The contents in the bag were in remarkably good shape for being out in the elements, the harsh sun and the pounding rain. Items inside include 2 bras, sunglasses, about $87, a digital camera in a case, 1 water bottle, and 2 cell phones in plastic bags. At this point, tragically, we also know the girls are deceased because also found along the river are bones. Tour guide Feliciano and some searchers find a half a pelvis, pieces of fibia and tibia bones, and a shoe with a foot still inside. The bones are scattered over a wide range. Analysis of the bones conclude the foot is Lisanne's and the pelvis and a rib bone belong to Kris. Kris's jean shorts are also found on a dry tree stump. They were not folded neatly, as some reports indicate, but they were in pretty good shape. Locals find more bones, totaling around 30-some bones, but only 2 belong to Kris, a pelvis and a rib bone. Also, a piece of rolled-up skin or a ball of tissue is found, with some reporting it belonged to Lisanne and some saying it was just animal tissue. Nothing is clear in this case. The bones, though, are different. They're in different stages of decomposition. Kris's bones seem a little bleached and show disintegration, while Lisanne's are more dry and in a state of preservation. When I was reading the book, Still Lost in Panama, a passage kind of made me curious. On the skin that the pathologist in charge attributed to Lisanne's thigh, he found insect bites and larvae, which according to him should not have been there 5 months after her death. Everything indicated that the body had been kept in a damp place, in the shade, and at low temperatures. So, it's a mystery. Officials in Panama declare the girls have an accident. They fell into the river, and their bodies were smashed against rocks. An X-ray of Lisanne's intact foot show a broken metatarsal, backing up this theory. The case is closed. But now we can take a look at the girls' phones and the digital camera to see what the girls recorded during the hike and in the early days of the disappearance. The phones and the camera have water damage, but information is able to be retrieved. The girls indeed hiked the Alpinista Trail on April 1st. Photos show them at the top taking selfies and showing the beauty of Panama. They reached the summit at around 1 p.m. The last 2 daylight photos are a bit different. It's Kris alone, without a big happy smile or a thumbs up. Most importantly, the pictures show the girls continued past the summit on the other side. They didn't go back the way they came. To be fair, there was no clear marking saying, don't go this way, the trail ends, go back. The girls took a trail that was more treacherous, muddy, and wet. And this would be a big mistake. How far past the summit, down the other side, did they continue? However far, things turned bad. A few hours later, maybe 3, Kris's phone indicated someone called emergency services or 911. Then 10 minutes later, Lisanne's phone calls 911 as well. Neither call connects. From April 1st to the 11th, one or both phones were turned on and off. 911 is called, and maybe they were checking for signal. Lisanne's phone dies on April 4th. On April 5th, Kris's phone is turned on, but an incorrect PIN code is used. This happened several times. Who was using Kris's phone? Was it Lisanne? If so, where was Kris? When the digital camera is fully examined, it's discovered on April 8th during the night, 90 photos are taken of rocks, trees, and the night sky, and mostly showing nothing. A few photos stand out. This one shows red plastic or paper attached to sticks, and one photo with a camera strap and a torn piece of map. Were these supposed to mark location? Another photo shows Kris's hair. Now, so many people say they can make out facial features or a wound and blood or her earring. Personally, I see nothing but hair. Another photo that is suspicious is number 509 because it's missing. The last photo, number 508, was Kris. Then 510, the night photos. What was on 509? Camera experts say the only way to delete that picture would be to plug it into a computer, something Kris and Lisanne certainly did not do at that time. Was the camera dropped? Maybe it was damaged and a glitch occurred. Maybe authorities accidentally deleted it when they were trying to get information off of it. The nighttime photos are taken 7 days from when the girls went missing. The girls must have been hungry, thirsty, exhausted, and scared. Remember, Lisanne wasn't even feeling good in the first place. Why didn't the girls go back down the way they came? Did they argue about which way to take? Did they think the trail would circle back to Boquete? How far past the summit did they go? This photo with the red tag, some believe, was taken near the first of a series of cable bridges or a monkey bridge. A cable bridge is essentially a rope bridge that goes across and over the river. It looks pretty rickety to me and pretty scary. The first cable bridge is about 3 hours from the spot Kris was last seen in photo 508. Is this where they found the river? I can't imagine them being tired and crossing that bridge. If their bodies got smashed up by the rocks, why was the backpack in decent shape? The bones didn't show any signs of real damage. Did animals scatter the remains that far? There were some indications of gnaw marks. But where were the rest of the bones? Kris's rib and pelvis seemed bleached. How did that occur? Would enough time in the sun do that? 2 months? Did someone soak it in lime to speed up decomposition? Lisanne's bones were in a completely different condition. The official ruling in this case was that the girls had an accident. They went down a trail they weren't supposed to. It got dark and they found the river. So case closed, right? No foul play. But it's the backpack that really bugs me. I started this research thinking the girls did have an accident, but now I'm not so sure. I think the girls did walk past the summit, down the side that wasn't for tourists. Mostly tourists. Locals used it. Were they curious? Were they out for an adventure? I think they went too far and they thought they could reach Boquete on a loop. It makes sense that the girls got lost. The first few days, they had possession of their phones. Miriam's number was even searched as well. Does this picture show they made it to a cable bridge? Why didn't searchers find them? They looked over the whole area, right? Did the girls go off trail, making it much more difficult to find them? I think they should have been found, or that something that points to them would have been found during this search. And why the night photos? There were no searchers at night to signal. I think they took the pics to see their surroundings, looking hard at the pictures, to get to some bearings, to see where they were. I think the pic of Kris's hair was just to see a bump, or maybe there was a bug in her hair. Did she take that picture herself? And that was on day 7. The girls were still together on day 7, we assume. But if they were together, why didn't Kris open her own phone on April 5th when someone opened Kris's phone and put in the wrong PIN number? Was Kris injured or was she unresponsive? Did they have possession of their phones at this point or was it someone else? Kris's phone even turned on April 11th. What condition were the girls in after 11 days? Who had the phones? Foul play would have us believe someone messed with those girls. When did they die? Where did they die? Did someone try to dispose of the bones? Was it a cover-up? Feliciano got a lot of blame because he was involved at every turn, to be fair. He reported the girls missing. He found their remains. He knew the woman who found the backpack. And tourism, after all, was his big business. But if it was foul play, why throw the backpack and the bones out at all? Just burn them. The search was pretty much over, and the case died down. Even the families agreed to the accident theory. And why were their bras in the backpack? Were they uncomfortable and they took them off? Or maybe they were taken off by someone else? There's so many questions in this case. There's a memorial for Kris and Lisanne at the summit now on the El Pianista Trail, and a sign that says, "Trail ends here. Go back the other way." Podcasters and authors have gone to Boquete to get answers, but it just leads to the same questions. Foul play or an accident? Suspicious deaths occurred after the Dutch girls' deaths too, including the taxi driver that dropped them off at the base of the trail. Even Feliciano's son Henry drew suspicion. Supposedly Kris and Lisanne were seen partying with Henry and his friends, known gang members, 2 days before their disappearance. These men were seen in a red pickup truck. If Henry was involved, Feliciano would be more likely to help with a cover-up. In the podcast, Lost in Panama, a woman who was interviewed said gang members intercepted Kris and Lisanne on the trail, took them back to one gang member's house and assaulted and killed them, faking the phone calls to 911 and taking the night photos. They dismembered the girls and scattered the bones, and the backpack was tossed near the river. The woman said her son was murdered because he knew too much. But a trek back from the El Pianista Trail to the gang member's house on a different path in the jungle would have taken hours, and it doesn't match up with the girls' timeline when they first called 911. This book disputes much of the podcast claims. I highly recommend you check out both the podcast and this book. This book also says Feliciano is innocent. He did talk with the authors and lead them on a hike, retracing the girls' steps. They were completely impressed with him. So now I'm leaning toward foul play. I think somebody did something to those girls, maybe after they got lost on the trail. They must have been so scared, is all I keep thinking. Their adventure turned into a nightmare. What do you think about this case? Do you think this is foul play or an accident? I'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for listening and watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll be talking to you again soon. Thanks.